All right, and welcome back to Photo Tips. And today I want to talk to you about something that is often a conundrum that photographers have. Do I shoot it in color or black and white? Not necessarily in the camera. When you process it at home, what do you want to do? Which is a better option? How do you decide? So that's what today's video is about. But before we get started, make sure you like the video, subscribe, or follow, depending on what platform you're on. It really helps the channel out here. So I'm going to show you a few images, and we're going to play around with it. And you're just kind of going to see my process here. We're just going to try and go straight to tape, as they say in the old days. So let's go ahead and take a look at Adobe Camera Raw here. This is the same editing engine as Adobe Lightroom, by the way, so the controls should be fairly similar if you're in that program. But you know, we have an image here, and this is actually from a recent shoot I did. In fact, if you want to see more of that, you can click the card up there if you're on YouTube and see that. But you know, it was kind of an overcast day, which goes pretty well for the water down here. But you know, it's a little bit dull, but it is a color image. I actually did end up posting this image, I think, to that video as well as to the website. So I thought it worked out, but right here, not so much. But let's say, let's try and do it easy. Let's try and do a color one here. So I think a couple things I might do. I might go up to my color temperature, maybe warm it up a little bit. That helps a little bit, make it a little bit more golden. And then let's say, we'll do a little bit of contrast, we'll do a little bit of clarity. We're working with a raw image here, so we do have quite a bit of flexibility with what we can do. And then, a famous one, I could say, let's go ahead and do some vibrance there. And then we could say, you know what, I think I even want my greens to come out a little bit more. We'll go up to my hue, saturation, luminance, increase green. And then let's say, I want to make the green more green, so I'll go over to my hue, and I can change the color from more yellow to a more greenish look. And, it's okay, but it's not fantastic. So one thing I want to talk to you about here, talking about the way color works with an image. Color can be distracting. It can also be a help. In this particular case here, the color, maybe up here in the green trees, it's nice, but over here, you're getting this kind of weird kind of red, not cyan, but kind of orange look over here. It's kind of distracting, and not much is going on with the water because it's just basically white. There's not a whole lot of color in there. So it can be a distraction. So let's go ahead and do one thing. I'm going to go back to my main page here, and I'm going to go ahead and switch us over to black and white, which should be pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and hit Adobe Monochrome there. And you can see that actually does improve things quite a bit. It kind of makes this like circle right here, really draws our eye into this area right here. And I think that's a pretty big improvement. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to accentuate that by going over to my Effects tab. And we're going to do a post-crop vignette, which will actually focus our attention even more. And I think I may move my midpoint out, which will push this vignette a little bit out, make it a little bit more of a sharp edge. And then I think I may go in here. Now there we go, make it a little bit more drastic. So as you can see, the color when we take it out takes away that distraction. I think really helps there in that particular image. Now we could leave it like that. In fact, I may go ahead, let's do some more contrast, maybe a little bit more clarity here. And that actually really helps up here, I think, but I want to be careful with my highlights. We could go in there and do some individual adjustment brushes and kind of touch that up. I think that's pretty good right there. But I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of spice to it. So a lot of times, when we're talking about color versus black and white, it doesn't have to be just this or that. We can also add color to our black and white image. I've done this toning idea before, and you've seen it in prior videos. But let me go over to my split toning tab in Adobe Camera Raw. Again, it's going to be in Lightroom as well. And what we can do is we can adjust here the color and the highlights and the shadows. I think for our purposes today, I'm going to try and get them to be about the same thing. So it's kind of hard to tell here. I wish they'd make some improvements and make this a little bit bigger, but you can barely see down here kind of what the color will be, and then you can increase the saturation or basically bring it into the scene. And I'm going to probably do, I think the highlights probably look a little better than the shadows in it. Just trying to make it a little bit more orange, a little bit less red. So we'll do that here, and we'll just keep sliding. Just kind of play around with it. And that, to me, is a much better image than when we started with here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this out, and I'm going to call it the after image. And then let's go ahead and go over to our Adobe Camera I'm sorry, your Adobe Lightroom, the file browser here. And let's take a look at what we started. You know, this is the before right here. Not much was going on. It's a very flat, the color is doing nothing for us. It's more of a distraction than a help. But when we go over here to the final image, boom. You know, you can see when we were taking that composition there out in the field, I guess I did know what I was talking about, at least I think I do anyway, because I really think this composition, it just works better when we take the color out and then add that kind of a nice, you know, country mountain sepia tone to it. I think it works really well. Add that vignette, focused our attention there. So that's a great example of something you might want to do black and white and then maybe spice it up with a little bit of toning there. So that's an option. But let me go ahead, I'm actually going to show you a color image right here. So let's go ahead and open this one up and let's see why this works well in color as opposed to black and white. Now obviously this is pretty much the way it came out of the camera. I think I may have reduced the exposure just a little bit there. But you know, we can go ahead and make, maybe warm this up a little bit, which will increase kind of this orange down here a little bit. And then I think I'm probably going to give myself a little bit more contrast, a little bit more clarity there. This is a raw file, so it's coming out pretty flat out of the camera, which is what they're designed to do there. And then I think, I'm just trying to remember what I did last time here. I think I may go ahead and just do a little thing up here on the top, because one thing too, you know, talking about color being a distraction, extra shadows can be a distraction too. So I'm not just going to talk about color in black and white today. That's not what I'm into there. And looks like, in fact, I have the saturation decreased there. Let's go ahead and bring that back. And that kind of tone that down up there a little bit. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and bring up my saturation. And I think I'm going to go over to my hue, saturation, luminance. Let's go ahead and bring some color out of there. I'm bringing up those blues. I'm going to bring up those oranges right there. And I might even bring up those greens. Let's go over to our hue. I think we did this last time. I'm going to try and make those greens just a little bit more green there for us. Let's see what we can do. You know, I'm trying, you know, this is a pretty dull day, so I'm trying to do some pretty drastic adjustments here. Let's see. I might, because what happened, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the adjustment brush because it was darkened up here, a little bit of a difference. Okay, so I think I like that pretty well. Let me just make a couple more adjustments and then we'll be on our way here. I'm just adjusting my tint there slightly. Okay, so I think I'm pretty satisfied with that there. Let's go ahead and save that image out. That didn't take very long. All right, so let's go ahead and compare the before. Again, pretty flat image, but I still think the color there was worth it. And the reason being, there's not as many elements here in this image. You know, we have some basic elements here. We have the green tree primarily right here, and then we have the water right here. And then we tone down back here a little bit. So this really works. It's not distracting to have the color. It's actually a compliment because there's not, you know, much going on. It allows us, you know, we're not overloading our senses by adding in the color here. And I think it works nicely. The color does add some warmth to it in this particular image there. So, you know, there's an example of where you probably want to leave the color in. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at something else. You know, this is one scene right here. This is virtually the same area. I think that's the same tree back there, but I went ahead and shot it vertically. And this, to me, is a different kind of scene here. Even though we're in a vertical orientation and we've cropped slightly, there is more going on in this image. So if I were to go ahead and do the same thing that we did last time, let's see. Maybe do some contrast and some clarity. We'll warm up the image a little bit here. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some vibrance going. Just bear with me here. I'm going to do kind of the same adjustments I did last time, going to hue, saturation, luminance. We're going to add some of that green back in, a little bit of orange, maybe some yellow, some blue in the water, and then make those greens a little bit more green. You know, there's so much going on. I think a lot of it has to do with what's up here, and there's too much for my senses to process here. So I think I blew out some highlights. We'll select that. So what I'm going to do is a couple things. I'm going to crop it first because this, you know, what I'm kind of seeing in my mind is something like this. Because again, I want to focus my attention just a little bit more. And I've got plenty of the water up here. I don't think I need this as much down here. So let's go ahead and do a quick crop. And I'm trying to think how much of this top stuff I want to include here. Okay, so go ahead and crop that, and boom, that does make a big difference right there. But again, there's just so much going on up here. It's not working for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over it from color to black and white. And for some reason, it's now showing up here before I had to go down here. I'm not sure why that was, but that is what happened there. So I like that. I know what happens too when you switch an image to black and white. Oftentimes you notice that it's going to require more contrast or something like that, or maybe it's overexposed, or maybe it needs to be increased. So don't be surprised if you have to change your exposure a little bit around to your settings when you switch to black and white. That's a very common thing. Goes all the way back to darkroom days too. It was different printing a color picture than a black and white, not just in a chemical sense. So I'm just trying to think right here. I might decrease that slightly. I'm trying to make this a little bit more moody, I think, would probably be my goal here. So let's see here. I'm just going to go ahead and bring my shadows down a little bit as well, which will darken these shadows back here. And we're making some improvement. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that post-crop vignette again. So we'll go up to our effects tab, post-crop vignette. And I'm going to do a pretty drastic one, I think, here, because I think it would work well. Okay, I'm thinking, can I bring those shadows down a little bit more? I might actually go ahead and grab an adjustment brush. I didn't do this the last time, but I'm going to do it live in front of you, and I'm going to say swoosh, just like that with my adjustment brush. Make sure you do those strokes in a wide, natural manner is what I would tell you to do to make them look natural. Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to see what it looked like before. Yeah, I think that's a big help right there. Helps focus our attention, but I do kind of like some of those gnarly looking branches back there. Okay, so let's go ahead and back to editing our main image. And I'm just going to kind of slide this around just a little bit here. Okay, you know what? I think that is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save that image out, and we'll call it after in the same location. We'll hit done. And let's take a look at our before. This just wasn't working. It doesn't mean it was a bad photograph. It just didn't work in color. We need a little bit of crop, but that's the aspect ratio the camera captures, so I had to go with it in the camera. So what we go ahead and did, I'm going to go ahead and hit back there, and we'll see. We went ahead and made that crop, focused our attention in, but even then the color was too much. There was too much distraction going on there. So we went ahead and cropped. We went ahead here and did a post-crop vignette as well to make these corners dark. And now we have this kind of moody, interesting image right here. In fact, if I wanted to do it again here, I might not crop as much up there, but you can fool around with that. We just got a few minutes here in the video, but I think overall this is a very effective image. Adds that nice mood to the scene. The color just wasn't giving us there. So there are 3 examples for us today. One in black and white with a tone to it, with a sepia tone. We've got a standard color, and we have a standard black and white. Now, I hope what I'm trying to emphasize to you here, I hope you're getting it, is that one is not necessarily better than another. I never go out there and say, well, today I'm just going to take black and white pictures, or today I'm just going to take color pictures, unless I'm shooting film or something like that, where I'm forced to by the film. Digital, you have unlimited options. So don't necessarily have a set thing in your mind when you go out there and say, this is exactly what I want to capture, because the scene may not give that to you that day. And you may find, this alternative is even better. So take a look at the image, let the image talk to you and dictate to you, yes, I'm better in color, or yes, I'm better in black and white, or maybe with a tone, what have you. So that's what I want to emphasize to you today. It's really about your artistic choice. So definitely appreciate you watching Photo Tips. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, depending on what platform you're on. And you have a good one. Bye-bye.